Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stands. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news. And it's a day, well, I'm not telling you to be positive. I'm a bit positive. I look at the start of the Premier League season, just, 5 days away. It's Sancho Day. He's back in training, a Jadon Sancho boost. We'll also be talking about Camavinga and the clear path we've got to that, but it's Ollie's decision. A bit of an update on Donny just coming in. Lots to discuss, but what I'm in a positive mood about is that I loved the show last night. Beth, Adam and Ricky, we were talking about the season ahead, and I think that's very, very important. But if I was to say this to you, Leeds, Southampton, Wolves, Newcastle, West Ham, Villa, Everton, Leicester, our first 8 games are all extremely winnable. And I know we haven't, we'll talk about Sancho and Varane in a minute, but I just feel there's a cough coming on. I feel there is a big opportunity for Manchester United this season. I've seen season after season after season, and I've seen season after season that isn't involving United. And sometimes you can get a top 4 side in the first 3 games of the season. Like we've had Chelsea on the opening day in the past, and it can not derail your season, but it can be a big reality bite very early on. I believe if we can win most of those first 8 games, it sets us up for the rest of the season. The confidence boost. Varane and Sancho will, get used to the Premier League a lot quicker if we're winning games with them in it. So it's a massive, massive opportunity for United, and I'm very excited about it. Jadon Sancho is what I was going to start off with. Then I'm going to talk about the focus of the transfer window now, which appears to be Camavinga. Look, we could win 8 out of 8. I don't think we will win 8 out of 8, by the way. I'm sure we'll draw a couple of them. We maybe even lose one. But the opportunity is there. So Jadon Sancho's in training today. Expect to see pictures of Jadon Sancho land. He is going to be training with United today, which gives him 5 clear days of intense training with United, because it will be an intense week. If you look at Pogba and you look at Martial and you look at Fred, they didn't look particularly fit against Everton at the weekend. So they need a hard week of training. There may even be a game behind closed doors. I don't know whether... Look, I think there's a chance. There's a chance that Sancho starts on Saturday. And to be honest with you, I would start him, Ollie, if I could. So that's the boost. I think there is a chance that he can start because he has got 5 days of training. I certainly think he'll be involved. And the news is that he's not carrying any injury at the moment. He's fit. He's raring to go. So Jadon Sancho is training today with Manchester United and gives himself a chance of getting involved for that opening game kickoff against Leeds at Old Trafford on Saturday lunchtime. And which is why I'm wearing my Jadon Sancho t-shirt. In fact, let me just say that you can get yours. We do have them below, or you can click the link in the video description, the second paragraph, and there we are. There we are. We've got loads of t-shirts and mugs. You can see we've got hoodies, lots and lots of t-shirts. Links in the video description for you there. We do ship worldwide, and as you can see, the 3 favourites at the moment, all available in different colours as well. Jadon, Just Give It, and Bruno. Link in the video description for those if you want to get them. We do ship worldwide. Right, so we've got Jadon Sancho back for Manchester United. What's going on in the transfer window? Now, there is a bit of a story around Camavinga, and it involves PSG. Camavinga. So the transfer focus for Manchester United appears to be very much around whether Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants to go for a midfielder. Now, obviously, the board have got to sanction it, but there's a story coming via Sport Witness this morning that Manchester United are not going to let Donny go, and AC Milan are looking at other targets. Now, if that is true, that is very, very significant. Now, I've got Fabrizio Romano on the show this afternoon at about 1:30. I'm going to be asking him a few things about transfers anyway, just to get a refresh of where we are now. But if we do keep Donny, we don't go for Trippier. We shouldn't go for Trippier anyway because he's too bloody expensive. Over £15 million for him is a rip-off. It is. I don't care what anybody says. We shouldn't be spending more than £15 million on Trippier because we've already got a £50 million right back, and we've already got a player that's probably going to go for 20 million in Donny. Our best use of resources is to stick with Donny and Wan-Bissaka this season. You maybe get Trippier really cheap next year with 1 year left on his deal and he's already 31. And focus on a midfielder. That's what United should do. That's where the transfer focus should be. And hopefully in relation to the right back, that's where it is going. Because if we shift away from Trippier, we shift away from spending money. Because Donny was going to go on loan anyway. So there was no money coming in from Donny. It was a loan deal. And then we were going to find the money from somewhere to pay for Trippier. And I don't think people were thinking that through. The money for Trippier is money that we've obviously got. that we were willing to pay 15 million for Trippier, which means we've got 15 million because we were never getting 15 million from Dalot. He was always going to go on loan again. So keep Dalot, don't get Trippier, use that 15 million towards Camavinga, who you can get for about 25. So Manchester United's focus very much now should be moving towards Camavinga. Now the interesting thing is PSG have basically shelved plans to buy anybody else. They want Pogba. They can't get Pogba because they've just spent a shitload of money on Messi. Camavinga unlikely as well. So that leaves Camavinga at Rennes, where he's been told he's got to sign a new deal or he can go in the next 3 weeks. Which means Man United have got a clear path to Camavinga. Now, other people might fancy him as well. The interesting thing is, and the reason I would focus it on Ole Gunnar Solskjaer more than I would focus in it on a transfer race, is because you've got to remember, and I will be asking Romano this at lunchtime, he said it and lots of people have said it, United need to sell to buy. Now, we haven't sold anybody yet. Or more importantly, most of the conversation is that we'd have to sell a midfielder. Now, Romano mentioned Matic himself a couple of weeks ago that maybe he could go. We've always heard about Pogba. We've heard about Donny. Obviously, Fred and McTominay are not going to go. At the moment, it doesn't look like any of those players are going. So if none of those players go, do we buy a midfielder? And I'm not convinced that we do. So it's a different... The transfer focus now seems to be we may end up just having what we've got, which is basically 2 signings and nobody coming out and nobody being left. And then I would ask you, is that a good transfer window? Well, yeah, Sancho and Varane are fantastic, but 2 signings and nobody being sold isn't anywhere near the summer I expected. I expected at least 6 deals. Now, that could be 4 in, 2 out. It could be 3 in, 3 out. But just 2 deals. And I'm not counting Tom Heaton. I don't know why anybody even takes notice of Tom Heaton, because why did we even bother getting Tom Heaton? He's a free transfer and we've still got Henderson and De Gea. So I don't even count Heaton. I don't count loans. The reality is it's Sancho and Varane. Nobody's been sold. And, you know, I think Sancho and Varane improve us massively. Of course they do. But I think when you've got a player of Camavinga's quality available right there in front of you for 25 million quid, maybe 30 million, but 25 to 30 million pounds, to refuse that deal is a mistake. It is a mistake because Pogba's gone in a year. And if you get Camavinga in now, utilise him now, in a year's time when Pogba goes, you've got Camavinga. So that, to me, is why United should be looking to get him. Now, look, I know it leaves us a little bit oversubscribed in the midfield. The plan was to get rid of a midfielder and bring a midfielder in. But as we all know, we need a midfielder anyway. Like Pogba, God knows where he's going to use him. McTominay and Fred. In a year's time, I hope one of them is going because we don't need both of them, but I'm happy to keep them both this year. Obviously, I want to see the development of Donny, and it's probably Matic's last year as well. So when you think about it, not buying a midfielder is really thick from United because Matic, I'm still not convinced Matic can do a job. I'm not going to suddenly change because of a game against Everton. He's been fantastic, but I still query why Matic didn't play much last year and McFred did. So I'm not convinced Matic has got the legs. I certainly don't think he's got the legs next season. So this season's his last. I don't think Pogba's going to be here next season. So if you look at about it, in 12 months we could lose 2 of our midfielders, 2 of our most experienced midfielders actually, because Pogba and Matic are our oldest. So I think that the focus must be on a midfielder, and whether that's going to be a Ruben Neves or a Saul Niguez or a Camavinga. I know we're overstacked in the midfield technically, but we're not. We're living on borrowed time with 2 players. So the focus needs to be on Camavinga. And as I said at the weekend, we know Rennes want to sell him unless he signs a new deal, which he's not going to do. So Camavinga's available in the next, 3 weeks? The transfer window closes 3 weeks tomorrow. 3 weeks, Camavinga, that needs to be the focus. Forget Trippier and go and get the deal. And people will say, well, he's not going to get used. He will get used. I mean, at the end of the day, he'll prove very quickly that he's better than McTominay and Fred, and in which case he's going to be competing with Donny, Pogba, Matic, and I think we should be using him in the Matic role anyway. We're definitely going to play with a holding midfielder. Morning, Mark. Could we do a swap with Fred for Camavinga? Says Mikael Roach. I don't think Ollie wants to move Fred on, to be honest with you. But look, I think there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic. Like I said at the start of the video, Sancho is back today. He's back. Well, he starts today. Excited to see how quick he can hit the ground running and how involved he'll be against Leeds. The opening fixtures of the season, as I said, you've got Leeds, Southampton, Wolves, Newcastle, West Ham, Villa. I mean, let's not talk about the first 8. Let's talk about the first 6. Leeds, Southampton, Wolves, Newcastle, West Ham, Villa. I mean, really, we should be looking to win 6. We should be looking for a complete 6. I don't know whether it'll happen, but that's what we should be looking at. That's the confidence that we need to take into this season. And I think that ultimately Manchester United should be buying 3 players. And I look at it now, people think it's gone a bit quiet in the transfer window. I think it has gone a little bit quiet in the transfer window for United. I think it's about to get busy for others. I expect Harry Kane to Man City to happen very quickly as well. I still think that'll happen. In which case, we've got Sancho and Varane. Man City have got Kane and Grealish. They're adding icing on top of their icing, and we've not baked a cake yet. We need to get that third signing in. For me, it needs to be a midfielder. And I don't know why they're even thinking about it. Because if they want to sell this nonsense that we've got enough in the midfield, anybody with a brain knows Pogba's gone in a year and Matic is basically nearly done anyway. If we can get 1 year out of him, fantastic. But Matic and Pogba in a year, they're finished. Who's coming in? Oh, Garner. Well, we haven't even got Garner on loan yet. So we desperately do need to buy a midfielder. And you're not going to get very many opportunities to bring in a player of Camavinga's quality for less than £30 million. So I think United need to do that deal if they've got any forward planning or sense. Hi Mark, I doubt we'll do any more business in this window. We might go for a midfielder in the January window depending on our situation at that time, says Mehdi. Look, Mehdi, you might be right, but I think it would be foolish. Morning Mark, Saturday lunchtime is in my diary, says Ray Carl Brown Amori. Cannot wait for it, Ray. I'm actually going to do my Premier League predictions show on That's Football, which I'm going to put up just before 12 o'clock today, so make sure you check that out there. I saw Camavinga play yesterday and I don't think he's ready to run our midfield just yet, but has potential, says Red Devils FC. Yeah, but in many ways, is that not the perfect signing then? You know, in many ways, he's perfect. You bring him in, you get him involved, and over the year, that's absolutely fine. I don't think anyone expects Camavinga to start every game anyway. So you bring him in, you get him involved. I mean, loads of people talk about Ruben Neves. Ruben Neves would want to start games. I don't know whether Ollie would want that. I think maybe that's why we're looking at Camavinga, because we know that, yeah, he doesn't have to start every game, but he comes straight into the matchday squad and starts competing, which I think would be absolutely great. Career mode's back this afternoon, yes, Liam Parker. So let's see what happens with that at the moment. I'm hoping, look, I think there's 3 things. There's no more transfers. There's Camavinga. There's Trippier. I'm hoping we hit the one in the middle. I'm hoping we're going to focus on Camavinga because it makes a lot of sense based on what we've said there. Anthony Martial. I just want to bring Anthony Martial in. So James Gavin's just mentioned Inter Milan there. I don't know whether he's talking about Martial specifically. We should get Bakayoko, says Garav. God, don't depress people on a Monday morning, Garav. I think in relation to Anthony Martial, it's floating around again like a turd you can't flush. The reality is they're talking about Martial, they're talking about Inter, they're talking about a loan. And I just don't think we will do this. And I really hope we won't do it. Because why? Well, there's 2 things really. One, as I said yesterday morning, why are we loaning players? Loaning players is stupid. I don't want to see De Gea loaned. I don't want to see Henderson loaned. I don't want to see Martial loaned. Those sort of players you sell. If you don't want them, you sell them. You don't loan them, because loaning them weakens us. We end up paying half their wages anyway. They're not part of our squad. We can't use them, and we don't get any money for them. Loan deals are deals you do with Pereira because nobody else wants them. Loan deals are bad deals unless they are young players like Chong going to Birmingham, like Garner needs to go somewhere, like Williams needs to go somewhere. I'm not convinced about the Twan Sebi loan because it feels a bit like deja vu. But look, he has to go and play first team football. I'm not convinced he will get that. But for me, Inter Milan, unless you're going to swap him for like Lautaro Martinez or someone like that, I don't agree with this deal. I really don't. So the first one for me is a loan deal is a bad deal. It leaves us massively short up front. Cavani's not going to play every game. Greenwood would then be your only striker. So that's not enough depth for a team that's trying to get in a title race. You've got to keep Martial, plus he can play off the left wing as well. So Martial has to stay as far as I'm concerned. If we took money for Martial, I'd be worried about what we would do with that money. What would we do with 30, 40, 50 million for Martial? What's that going to get us? Are we going to go and buy a striker, or are we going to use it to buy Trippier, or are we going to use it to balance the books? You know, so people say sell Martial, but the reality is if you sell Martial for 40 million, your net spend is suddenly the same it's been for the last 4 years, around 60 million quid. Oh, let's sell Martial so the Glazers can balance the books. I just don't, for me, I don't even really care if people dislike Martial or not. I would say to them, forget your dislike for Martial. Think about how short we are up front if when Martial goes. And don't think for 1 minute that we'd spend the Martial money on another striker. I don't think that we would. I think we'd spend it on a right back, or we'd pocket it and help the Glazers out. So I don't want to see Martial go. And the third thing I would say as well is, does it not annoy you as a United fan that when we sell players, we're selling players that we don't really want to sell? We're selling dividing players. When do we ever sell the players that everyone agrees with? When do we sell the Pereiras or the Lingards or the Dan James? We're not selling those players. We're always looking to sell the players that are dividers. And I understand it with the goalkeeping situation because some people want Henderson, some people want De Gea. In the case of Martial, if he goes, you need to bring a striker in. If Lingard goes, you don't need to bring anyone in. If Dan James goes, you don't need to bring anyone in. That's their sales that you can do and go, well, it's sad they're going, but ultimately we don't need to replace them. You sell Martial, you've got to replace the player. That's not the sort of sale United should be looking to do 3 weeks out from the end of the transfer window. So to me, that would be really bad planning for Manchester United to sell Martial at this late stage of the transfer window. Mark, would you be happy to sell Martial to fund Camavinga? They did sell to buy. Chris Morton, great point. No, I wouldn't, because when I think about sell to buy, I'm thinking about selling players we don't need to replace. We don't need to replace Lingard. We don't need to replace Dan James. We don't need to replace Pereira. There's 3 players there we don't need to replace. Those 3 players are the players you should be getting the money for Camavinga from. Martial, well, if you sell Martial and you buy Camavinga, the midfield's looking good, but I'm terrified. Goals win games. We can have all the creativity and all the good defence we want, but if Cavani gets injured and Mason Greenwood gets injured, who's playing up front? So I don't think we can sell Martial, and he's not the right player to sell as far as I'm concerned. But it would be typical of United to sell to buy, to sell a player that shouldn't really be sold. An equivalent of it would be if Chelsea decided to sell, Ben Chilwell to buy Declan Rice. Well, yeah, they've got Alonso who can play at left back, but Chilwell's. It leaves them weak at left back, and I don't think Manchester United should be doing that. One person we forgot to replace is Matt Judge, says Neil the Boss. Yeah, well, you know what? Get Patrick Bamford in for Martial, says Brandon. Well, this is the thing. If Martial's going to go, there's got to be a replacement coming in. I don't think we can do that. And also, can I just say, I think we need to start looking at... We need to revert here. I said this at the weekend, and I think it was buried in the show, so I'll say it towards the start of the show. Selling Martial is going backwards. Sell the Deadwood, says Red Devils FC 25. Martial's work rate is the problem. Rashford is untouchable, bruv. I forgot what I was going to say now. What was I going to say? Get Patrick Bamford in for Martial. Yeah, I know what I was going to say. Look at the evidence of Man United, right? Sancho deal this summer still took 6 weeks from when it really kicked off to the end. The Varane deal was a little bit short, would have been a lot shorter. I think the Varane deal from first real it could happen to, we've done a deal with Madrid was about 4 weeks, wasn't it? So United normally average between 4 and 6 weeks to do a deal from excitement to the end. We've got 3 weeks left. We've got 3 weeks left. I don't see Ruben Neves or Saúl Ñíguez being anywhere near United because it's not even started yet and we've only got 3 weeks. I think, as I said, it's Trippier or Camavinga. That's what's going to happen with United because we have been linked to them that you can imagine that could escalate quite quickly. I don't see an outsider coming in now. I don't see a Max Aarons or a Ruben Neves happening now because we've just had no noise around them at all and United leak like a sieve. So I do look at those things and I think, well, look, if we did let Martial go, we're not even linked to another striker to get it done in 3 weeks. So I think Martial... Dara says you never know. I don't think United are... I don't think United... some people think United have done a fantastic job this transfer window. Fantastic is stretching it. I think it's been a good transfer window. But ultimately, I did say at the start of the window, if we don't get a midfielder, then this transfer window is a failure. Do I feel like using the word failure as bluntly as I would have done in May? Probably not. But I'm not going to change my mind. I still said a midfielder was what this transfer window was all about. For me, personally, it might not be for you, but for me, getting a midfielder in was what this transfer window was all about. I still think that's true. Look at the game that we played on Saturday. We're crying out for a holding midfielder. We're having to use an almost finished Matic. He's our only hope. Like literally, if Matic didn't play at the weekend, we would be screaming for a holding midfielder. But you know, with Matic, we don't know what his fragility is. How vulnerable is Matic? How many games can Matic play? So I still say this transfer window cannot be fantastic when we didn't get a holding midfielder in. And with 3 weeks to go, I think it's touch and go whether we'll do it. Should sell Tony with the Rashford injury. Latest on CDM, says English Savage. And Mark, if you have the choice to pick Vidic in his prime or Varane in his current form, who would you pick? What's your opinion? Chat, says Danny Doritos. Nemanja Vidic is my favourite centre-back of the last 30 years at United. Like, I'd take Vidic over most world centre-backs in any era. I mean, I prefer Vidic over Rio. Just because very different styles of defending. I prefer Vidic. I want my centre-back to run through a brick wall. I want my centre-back to win every high ball into the box. I want my centre-back to, be tough as nails, a leader. I mean, Vidic and Rio were just an amazing centre-back pairing, but I've always been consistent. I know I'm probably in the minority, but I prefer Vidic. So Vidic over Varane every day of the week. But look, Varane's quicker than Vidic. Varane's probably better on the ball than Vidic, but it's not always about that. Vidic is one of those players that when you're playing FIFA Ultimate Team and you get Vidic, it doesn't necessarily work as well as a Rio or a Varane or a Koulibaly or someone like that. But in reality, those players are priceless. So Vidic, for me, is just underrated as one of the world's best ever centre-backs. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. So yeah, let's move on. I spoke about Martial there. I mean, realistically, I think the transfer window is up to Ollie now. It's what Ollie prioritises. If he's telling the board to keep going after Trippier, then we'll go after Trippier. If he's telling them to get a midfielder, then we'll go after a midfielder. If we get nothing, that's the board saying we're not having any more spent. So there's 3 scenarios there. Ollie's choice. If we buy someone, it's down to Ollie. If he goes for a right back, I can't believe it. If he goes for Camavinga, I think he's spot on. If we get nobody, that's the board saying you're not having anybody else. So the 3 scenarios there in front of you. Get nobody, that's the board saying no. Get a midfielder, that's Ollie's choice. Get a right back, that's Ollie's choice. Let's see what happens. Martial's had his chances. If Sir Alex Ferguson was in, he'd be gone, says Siddharth. Yeah, but Siddharth, come on. You can't. The trouble with that sort of thing is you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't say you're a highbrow journalist and then put out, stories on your newspaper about United signing Neymar because some made-up Spanish outlet said it. And you can't say Martial's had his chances, let's sell him, but then not be mentioning Jesse Lingard, Dan James and many other players who've been at the club, maybe not as long, sometimes as long, but they've had plenty of chances as well. Martial's not the only player that you should be thinking about selling. He's way down the list, and that's my point. I don't really care if people want to sell Martial, but he shouldn't be the number one. There are players that we can sell that we don't. The problem with Martial is whether you like Martial or not, if you sell him, you've got to replace him. How are you going to sell a player in 3 weeks and replace them? Because people think Inter are just going to buy Martial tomorrow. Imagine the negotiations. That won't happen till the very end of the month. Then we won't get a striker in. So selling Martial would be damaging to our season at this late stage. It could have happened earlier, but it would be damaging now. The players we need to sell are the players that we don't need to replace. Because if we need to replace them, we haven't got the bloody time to do it. That's the problem. Now that we've got Varane, says Frank Potterus, is it possible to say we can have Matic playing pivot even though he's slow as he's being compensated for now? The problem with Matic is whether he's got the legs to do it, Frank. It's not about whether he can do it. I think he can do it. It's just whether he's got the legs to do it 2-3 times a week. Obviously, at the start of the season, he should be fine. So there we go. Josh King on a free. VK, I'm pretty sure Josh King's gone somewhere already, hasn't he? I'm pretty sure he has gone somewhere already. Please, somebody confirm that. I'm sure I was celebrating about Josh King a few weeks ago that he's already gone somewhere. So yeah. Somebody just spoken to me about a DiMarzio tweet, which... Let me just have a quick look here. Florenzini has returned to Roma but is not part of Mourinho's plans. Milan has started contacts and Milan chose him after the right wing did not unlock the negotiations for the return of Delot, and the negotiations underway. Okay, so look, that's what we were talking about before then. It looks like Delot to Milan could be off. And King's gone to Watford as well. So King's gone to Watford, which is great. And it looks like Delot to Milan is off, which is good news for United fans if you don't want Trippier. And I just want to say, it's not that I don't want Trippier. I just want that money to be used elsewhere on a midfielder. And I think Trippier's too expensive. And I don't think we should be going anywhere near that deal. Martial has shown his class. If he flops this season, get rid of him. This could be the biggest season of his career. It will clarify if he's reliable, says Danny Doritos. And what an exciting tweet that is from Danny Dorito. Ihab says, yes, Delot's going to stay. Everything points towards Camavinga if we keep Delot. The reality is, I think, as I said, there's 3 options here, and I don't know what let me know in the chat what you think is going to happen. Do you think we'll get Trippier? Do you think we'll get Camavinga? Or do you think we'll get nobody? While we need a CDM, it's also about some of the best options available in the market. This won't repeat, and grasping it is what makes a big club, says Shravan. Look, I don't want to repeat myself, but the reality is we need to buy a midfielder this summer. We might have a lot, but in a year's time, Matic is definitely done. Pogba's gone. So you buy a midfielder now, you get them involved, and then next summer they become your midfielder. What perfect player that? Camavinga, because he's 18. Perfect player to bring in, really. Perfect. A lot of people saying they think we'll get nobody. I think it's a failure if we get nobody, everybody. I know Varane and Sancho are fantastic, but to not get a midfielder, I think is a failure. I said it in May and I'll say it again now, even though I am very excited about the start to the season. But that's encouraging news from Dimarzio that Milan have given up on Delot, because if we keep Delot, that means we don't get Trippier. Let Arsenal get Trippier. I'm not that bothered, but maybe go for Trippier in a year's time as well. But for now, I would leave it alone. I did just want to give a bit of a shout. I'll probably talk about it more on the 8 o'clock show tonight, but I did want to just mention the Donny van de Beek scenario. I think that Donny van de Beek, a lot of buzz around Donny at the moment. I saw something from the Telegraph saying that people are saying that Donny's a man on the mission. I do think in relation to Donny van de Beek, and there's a lot of people in the community like me who are a big fan of his. If we don't get a CDM, we should blame Ollie, not the board, says Jayling's fan. Well, let's see what happens there. Let's see what happens. We need to get a CDM, like you say. But I think in relation to Donny van de Beek, it's very interesting, isn't it? I was sort of taking the mick out of people on Saturday saying, I thought Donny couldn't play as... Donny's only a number 10. And we had the cultists last year. I watched him at Ajax. He's definitely just a number 10. I was like, I don't care where you've watched him. I've looked at the player. I think he can play box to box, and he's proved that. His last 2 games for United, one a pre-season, one against Wolves in the league, played in the box to box role. Fantastic. I think actually his attributes from a deeper role are what he's going to grow into being a good player, because he's tenacious, he's quick, and he's good at passing, and he's got one-touch passing. I think he works fantastically well in the middle of the pitch. So it's a massive season for Donny van de Beek, but I am going to just offer a reality bite, and I wanted to throw this in because I think there's a lot of people... Look, we spoke about it on the show last night, and Ricky, Adam, Beth and me all said that the midfield 2 against Leeds not should, but must be Donny and Matic, because they are the best 2 players we've got at the moment, and they're the fittest 2. Whether Ollie does that, I'll be stunned if he does it. But look, I think he needs to do it. Donny van de Beek, I think people... I wanted to bring it in. I think people are bringing in... It's almost like Donny van de Beek's a new player. Donny van de Beek's a new signing. I mean, look, he's a little bit more bulky. What sort of idiots have we got analysing football that player puts on a bit of weight, muscle, therefore is a different player? Just pumping yourself up at the gym doesn't make you a better footballer. Makes you a stronger player, but doesn't make you pass better. Doesn't make your tenacity better. Doesn't make your footballing brain better. You're not exercising those abilities. You're exercising your physicality. And to be honest with you, I saw Donny play not as much as I wanted to last season, but he played against Wolves and he wasn't as big as he is now and was fantastic. He played against Watford in the Cup and wasn't as big as he is now and is fantastic. He came on against Newcastle last October, changed the game in... Not as big as he is now, and he was fantastic. He played a couple of games in the midfield in late November when Pogba and McTominay were out, and he was fantastic. People forget that that Donny van de Beek, when he was used, I think there's 1 or 2 games where he didn't really grasp it, but in the games he was used, he actually did play really well. And it's almost as if some of our fan base are trying to now say, well, he was shit last year, he's gone away, he's worked really hard, and now he's decent, you can't knock it. And I'm not having that. I'm not having that, because I think it's the warning sign you need to have in your head. I'm not convinced Ollie's going to use Donny much this year. I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. I wanted him to play more last year. But I think you've got to be realistic. We might see Donny hardly used again. We might have another year where Donny's behind Matic, McFred and Pogba. I don't think he should be, but I don't think he was a bad player last year, and he was put behind those players. I don't think Donny putting a bit of weight on and muscle makes him any different as a footballer than he was last year. And he was ignored last year. So it's just a bit of a reality bite. I definitely think Donny should be playing games. What I've said consistently is he needs a run of games. Stop putting him in for 1 game a month. Give him 4 or 5 games and see if he gets better, because I think he will. I'm hoping we're going to get that at the start of the season. But if he doesn't start against Leeds, I mean, that's not the sort of encouraging start you want, because he should be nailed on to start that game. And not just because of a pre-season game against Everton, also because of the performance in our last Premier League game against Wolves at the end of last season. This might get me hate, says Danny Doritos. Sancho we didn't need, he's luxury. Varane we kind of needed, but we could survive without him. But with McFred, if we don't replace them, we'll finish 6th again. I disagree with you, Danny, on the centre-back. I think that was essential, and I think that Sancho was a luxury signing, but sometimes, a bit of luxury is good, and I think we will benefit from Sancho massively. Donny's recent performances have been exciting, would be great alongside Camavinga when Pogba leaves next season, says Jay. Pogba plays with 2 midfielders for France, Kante and Rabiot, Tolisso. Could we do the same with Pogba, Matic and Donny and drop a winger? Front 3 of Cavani, Bruno, Sancho instead, says Duncan. There is no point in buying Camavinga. Ollie won't use him. Ollie loves McFred. He already used they instead of Pogba. Van der Beek is a pure 8. Ajax doesn't play with a 10, says Tabraz. You seem a bit low, Mark. Even chat is. I understand a midfielder is important, but game on 14. Come on, let's show some excitement. I'm hell of excited. I'm not low, Siddharth, at all. Don't know what you're talking about. You've obviously not been tuning in for most of the show. I'm actually very excited this morning. Sancho's training with the team. He's got an outside chance of starting against Leeds. We know Varane's medical will be done on Wednesday. I mean, he might make the bench, but there's no point of centre-back being on the bench. He either starts or he doesn't. I can't see him starting, but you never know. It's not like Varane's coming back from being on holiday. He has actually been doing some training in Madrid, but obviously he won't have the intense training. So maybe Varane is unlikely against Leeds. He'll go with Magaluf, of course, I'm sure. But yeah, and the first 6 games of the season are all winnable. So there's lots to be positive about. But you've got to be true to yourself. And for me, if we don't get a midfielder in, we have failed in this transfer window, because that was, to me, the most important position. To everybody else, it might not be. It's not reason to be negative. It's reason to think we won't win the league. That's why I went with 3rd yesterday. But Beth went with 1st. What were your key judgment points for Ollie this year? Mine is game management. This includes rotation to rest players over the season, says Joshua Bowwater. What a fantastic question that is. So for me, the key judgment points for Ollie, if I remember them correctly from the Europa League final match reaction. First of all, yes, you're right. We can't focus on the same 13, 14 players, so he needs to rotate better. Not too much. You can rotate too much. I don't want him to rotate too much, but a little bit more. That's point 1. Point 2, he needs to sub and change in games. I see Man City do it. I see Chelsea do it. I see Liverpool do it. They will make changes 65, 70 minutes in. They will take off good players. Ollie seems... He won't take a Bruno off. He won't take a Rashford off. And he needs to do that. It's very easy to take off a McTominay and bring on a Fred. It's very easy to take off a Mason Greenwood and bring on a Dan James. I want to see a Bruno taken off, a Pogba taken off, a Rashford taken off 70 minutes in. And it's a whole season. I know Rashford's injured, but I'm just saying Ollie needs to make subs better. So that would be point 2. Point 3, I think we will be better at his set pieces. We know we conceded a lot from set pieces. Point 4, stop playing with the back 6. Stop using McFred, definitely. And point 5, I want to see us breaking teams down better, creating more chances for our striker, because we don't create enough chances for a striker. If we do those 5, there's plenty of other things, but if we do those 5, they're 5 for me that are very important. We need a CDM to make our defence look good. Everton game, Matic made even Lindelof look good, and the first half, we took the game away, says Shravam. There is time for us to do it. Hi Mark, can you say happy birthday to my little brother Finbar, who is 16 today, says Bars for Beats. Happy birthday Finbar. 16 today. Happy birthday, mate. Hope you have a good day. We've got Fabrizio Romano on the show at 1:30 today as well. So in relation to transfer update, we've spoken about Martial, we've spoken about the Camavinga situation. But it's all a bit speculative at the moment. I'm hoping with Fabrizio we get a little bit of meat on the bones on a lot of situations. And this lunchtime at 1:30 we will be live. Tuesday, 4 days to go. Will it be Phil Jones or Varane, says Jay Ling's fan. And obviously we are going to get the pictures of Sancho coming out today as well, which is very exciting. And he does have a chance. There is a boost with Sancho. There is a chance that he could play in the game at the weekend against Leeds. Links in the video description, by the way, or if you're on YouTube, you can actually scan down and it shows you the pictures anyway. But the United Stand merchandise page, there you go. You can see all the t-shirts that we've got. We do ship worldwide. All those are available in different colours as well. In fact, if we click on the guy of the moment, there we go. That's the one I'm wearing at the moment, as you can see. But we do have different colours there, all sorts of different colours. Quite like that one, actually. There we go. Manchester United. Links in the video description for those. Check it out. Let's have a look what people are saying in the chat. And can you play CDM, Finbar, says Stephen Jones. Thoughts on Ollie's comments about overusing Bruno, says Hadrian. Well, he overused a lot of players last year. He's got to stop doing that. But look, it's not been mentioned because he's got COVID and we saw the other one at the weekend. Looks like Dan James and Jesse Lingard are going to stay. What does that mean for people like Amad Diallo and Alanga? I still hope that United can shift some players towards the end of this transfer window. Mark, if United do end up joining the Super League, rename the channel to the West Ham Stand, says Danny Doritos. West Ham. Okay, look, Romano's on at 1:30. Looking forward to that. Thanks everybody for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video. If you want to get your t-shirts like I'm wearing, links in the video description. We do ship worldwide. I am very excited. Career mode, it'll be about 3 o'clock today. I'm also going to put up my Premier League predictions for the Premier League top 4, top goal scorer, player of the year. That's going to be on That's Football, going up at around 11:30 this morning. So check out for that. Follow me on Twitter at Mark Goldbridge. Have a great day, whatever you're doing. I'll see you at 1:30 with Fabrizio for the latest transfer news. And thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Exciting week ahead. Bring it on.